Can somebody please explain to me why Udyr's Q costs half the mana of the other 3 stances? Or why, if the enemy champion is close enough to your wall, your Awaken R Storm traces to frickin' Egypt and tells them exactly where you are on the map. Also, for some reason, each time you level up on Udyr, your mana cost per stance goes down, meaning when you are potentially needing your mana the most as an early game skirmisher juggernaut, when you're most vulnerable. This is also when Riot throws a giant wrench in the equation and makes your stances cost the most mana, so you also have to think about resource management. Udyr can also skip starting a health potion and full clear his jungle by 3 minutes and 3 seconds down to 3 minutes if you're fast enough. It is kind of insane. You'll be full health and ready to gank at 3 minutes, no health potion. So can somebody please explain to me why these mini Krugs glitch on Udyr's R Storm near this wall? Some of them will get stuck, some of them won't move, and no matter what, they never burn to death unless you know just don't bring them near the wall. In addition, why does Udyr's Awaken on his Qs say you deal a total of X amount of max health magic damage to isolated targets when the only other champion in the game with isolation, Kha'Zix, works fundamentally different than Udyr's? Udyr's lightning Q bolts will bounce to targets that are nearby, correct, but they still do the same amount of damage. It doesn't do bonus damage, unlike Kha'Zix, who will literally get extra damage by killing targets that are isolated. These lightning bolts don't do any extra damage. They're just 12 bolts that happen to do a lot of damage if they land on the same target. Here's E gives ghosting, but for some reason Riot hides this in the shift tooltip. If you don't know, your E allows you to move through units, so that Phantom Dancer effect that all melee champions in the game love, yeah, Udyr just gets it for free. You can press E and just walk through whatever unit you want, but again, it's not really mentioned in the main tip here. If you don't know, when you're inside a bush with Udyr, your R doesn't reveal you. So literally, if they don't have vision in this bush, outside of getting slowed and seeing the debuff on them and taking damage, they won't actually know you're in the bush. You press Awaken R, though, they will instantly know you're there because it'll come out of the bush and reveal you, even though you're still hidden inside the bush. Why does Udyr's Q have on-hit damage on it? Udyr is an ability haste champion these days. You really only want to stay in your stances for 2 auto attacks and then switch out, meaning there's really no incentive to stay in one stance for forever. Your Q right now, if you read literally the opening line, his attacks deal 12 equals 5 plus 25% bonus AD physical damage on hit for 4 seconds. So if you stay in Q stance, you do extra on hit damage, but you don't ever want to stay in one stance as Udyr. This makes no sense, and this is almost like a legacy thing that they didn't think about, because this is how you used to play Udyr, was you used to build a bunch of attack speed and stay in one stance, but there is literally no reason to do it these days. Riot did a great job simplifying this champion with this rework, because there's only a few key critical cooldowns you need to know. Number 1, at level 6, 11, and 16, your Awakening drops by 10 seconds each a pop. Number 2, there's a 1.5 second internal cooldown before you can cycle into any other stance. Each stance has a 6 second cooldown on its own base, meaning if you go into the stance, you can't go back into it for another 6 seconds. This is all reduced by ability haste. Ultimate haste, though, does not affect your R, it affects your passive. So if you've ever been around here long enough, you know that ultimate haste essentially reduces the cooldown of your Awakening, meaning you get to cast Lightning Q and Awaken more often, making it a really good pickup for damage builds. But since your Awakening cooldown drops at level 6, 11, and 16, it means as the game goes on, ultimate haste gets lesser and lesser valuable. And in addition, the auto attacks that reduce your Awakening cooldown are percent base. So as the seconds get reduced and ultimate haste reduces your level 16 cooldown from 20 seconds to 12 seconds, these auto attacks are only reducing your cooldown by like 0.8 seconds instead of the full 1.5 seconds that they're designed for at level 16. In other words, ultimate haste is incredible for the early to mid game to get you to late game, but late game it's honestly not incredibly broken. Man, look what they did to my baby, boys. There's no reason anymore to build Tiamat on Udyr. This is not really an Udyr mechanic, but with 1 point R these days in your pet, literally Tiamat is just a giant waste of gold, and it also is not very gold efficient. Do not build Tiamat anymore on Udyr. It's a dang shame, because this item used to be core on Udyr back in the day. If you've never had the pleasure of going to the Udyr wiki and looking at his percent damage, Udyr's AP and AD ratios are literally broken, meaning if you build Glass Cannon on Udyr, whether it's full AP or full AD with any sort of armor or magic pin, you will one-shot people. It is not designed to be played that way, which is why he will kill people instantly. Other champions get to abuse this, though. If you're against somebody like Viego, when Viego kills you, he not only gets to kill you and get his bonus 10% movement speed and lifesteal or whatever, but he also gets a fresh Awakening, so he gets to use your Awakening even though he doesn't get access to other people's ultimates. He gets access access to your ultimate, it makes no freaking sense. Sylas will just straight up one-shot you if you don't know. If Sylas steals Udyr's ultimate until you get some magic resist, he'll just kill you because your ratios are so broken when Sylas takes it with his glass cannon build. It's just going to kill your entire team. Truly, do not give Sylas your ult if you can help it. Also never understood, if you go into lightning stance and not use your Q and immediately go into another stance, the lightning bolts still transfer. It's kind of nice, right? Your turtle auto attacks and R bonus damage on your R storm do not, making it another reason why Q is kind of the black sheep of Udyr's kit. In addition, if you don't know, if you eventually keep leveling up on Udyr, you can max up to 2 stances, but not 3. So if you go all the way to level 18, if you don't know, you can put 6 points in ability. That's really cool, right? And then you realize that you need 1 point in each ability, and there's really only enough room for 2 of these stances to get maxed, and the other one gets left at a 5th point, which makes no sense. You can take the rune triple tonic to get an extra skill point to get around this, but it's really lame that you can only max 2 out of 4 stances instead of 3 out of 4, which would be really interesting. Udyr's a little broken in the sense that he can instantly apply items like Spear of Chosen, Black Cleaver, and Bloodletter's Curse. Literally, if you just want a shredding build on a bunch of tanks, you can literally just go these 3 items and they will work. If you don't know how it essentially reads, is whenever you use a damage ability or use any sort of these magic damage effects, you will get 1 stack. Udyr's auto attacks count as 2 stacks because you get the auto attack and the damage on the actual stance effect. But you also have like a passive burn on your R, and you instantly proc it because you've got attack speed in your kit. Take a look at Mr. Target Dummy up here. What happens if you just run up and lightning Q him instantly there? So if you guys don't know, the Udyr rotation to kill somebody is bear stun 4Q, QQ, lightning Q, right? Take a look at what happens with all 4 of these items and these debuffs. Q, Q, lightning Q. You've got perfect 5 stacks of Black Cleaver. You've got Bloodletter's Curse stacked, and your damage is getting amplified by 12% from the Spear of Chosen, because this also instantly stacks. It is ridiculously broken, and it's hilarious if you guys want to give it a try. In addition, if you don't know, Udyr does not need to use any sort of auto attacks to proc Phase Rush. You can literally just turn on your R, get 1 pulse on the enemy champion, and then cast Awaken R, and it'll proc. So check this out. Ready? We're going to get in range. Bam. Cast the Awaken, and it procs. I have no idea how this works. It has something to do with, like, the Awaken R Storm does an extra pulse and a max health pulse in addition to the base pulse. But this is why on full AP Udyr, Phase Rush is kind of a little bit cheeks. It's very, very broken. As you level up Udyr's bear stance, your movement speed goes up and your per unit cooldown goes down. So meaning, when you stun a target, you'll see this little circle around their feet. As you level it up, this can go from 6 seconds down to 4 seconds. But what doesn't go up is the 0.75 second stun. If they build tenacity or get more health or resistances, it's almost like this per unit cooldown is completely negated, because even though your stun per target is going up, you still need to continue to cycle your other abilities in those 4 seconds, and they can reduce the duration of that tiny 0.75 second stun by building tenacity. If you don't know, Awaken R does not trace through any sort of terrain, including player-created terrain. So if you're against somebody like Jarvan or Anivia and they put a wall up right here or a cage up, your Awaken R will literally never get through, and it's almost as if you're playing a completely dead champion if you're trying to press Awaken R. In addition, Udyr's Awaken R, if you don't know, actually gets faster as you level up. It's so silly, but literally if you get a higher level with more points in R, your Awaken R Storm just traces faster. So if you take a look at this tracing, let's go ahead and press Awaken R here. That's kind of cute, right? Take a look at this level 17 R though, how much faster it moves and also how much quicker it is to able to get in the pit. Udyr with any sort of damage item can do dragons in literally under 20 seconds. He can solo Baron, and he can almost certainly solo Atacon. For some reason, Udyr's lightning bolts, these Awaken Q lightning bolts, scale off magic damage. They actually scale off it, so it's not affected by level. It's literally just if you build AP, they do more damage. But every other stat in this stance is affected by physical damage. In addition, there's no other scaling in this kit that benefits attack damage, meaning the Q is the only reason why you build AD. If you build AP, you literally benefit the whole kit, including your turtle stance, which scales off AP. That's why Medjai's Soul Stealer is so freaking broken on Udyr, is because not only does it give him movement speed, 10% movement speed, which is insane, but it also gives you ridiculous amounts of damage, and it gives you a meaningful sustain a la bigger shields with your Medjai stacks because you scale off AP. Unfortunately, though, building AP is how you take advantage of his full kit. Tiger is literally only played with AD builds because there's only one stance that makes sense to even build attack damage for. Also, as a Juggernaut for some reason, Udyr has no built-in armor pin or magic pin in his kit, meaning if you really want to carry, you've got to build items like Last Whisper, Bloodletter's Curse, Void Staff, Crypt Bloom. It kind of feels silly that they didn't give a Juggernaut at least 5% armor and magic pin so we could kill other tanks without having to build items like that. Speaking of a stat that Udyr critically needs for a Juggernaut class is he has no built-in tenacity. So as a champion with literally no gap closer or meaningful way to engage, you've got your Awaken E, which is cool, but this is not a cleanse effect either. You have to predict incoming CC, and if you do that, you don't have your awakening up for your much more meaningful other awakenings. I tell people this is your worst awakening by far. It is really unfortunate that Riot chose to not give Udyr any built-in tenacity. If you think about other Juggernauts, like let's say Set, his ult is a point and click dash. Volibear's got a dash. Udyr literally has no way to get on top of targets, and you literally eat the full duration of crowd control unless you build things like Merc Treads. Speaking of Merc Treads, I mentioned in this in my Tanking Master Bootcamp video, but if you have not done the Canic Rookern plus tier 3 Merc Treads combo on Udyr, not only does Canic Rookern give you a magic shield, not only do the tier 3 Merc Treads give you a magic shield, not only do you have a built-in Awaken W that applies all of this magic resist to your Awaken W shield, but you also have a huge weakness on Udyr in that your base resistance or base magic resistance is a lot lower than your base armor. So by building Canic Rookern and tier 3 Merc Treads, you literally become unkillable to magic damage dealers as Udyr. Udyrs are constantly a procs approach velocity, instantly making it one of the best in slot runes in the game for Udyr. It makes no sense why you constantly get this proc, and frankly, one of the hardest things Udyr needs is sticking power, meaning anytime you literally turn this on, you have 5 seconds of being able to chase someone 15% faster, and you're also slowing them by anywhere from 15 to 30%, 35% on an Awaken R at level 6, but anywhere from 15 to 30% while chasing them faster. It is insanely broken on Udyr. I don't feel like restarting this practice tool, but if you have never done Hail of Blades Udyr, Hail of Blades with Bear Stun, Lightning Q will truly one-shot people. In the League community, there was a very popular meme build going around where you built 6 Haunting Geizes, because if you don't know, Haunting Geizes actually stack. So for each second in combat, you deal up to 6% damage. That actually stacks, and if you're somebody like Udyr with a lot of percent damage, and your shield, again, scales with AP and health, which this does, it makes Haunting Geiz stacking extremely effective on Udyr. This is a really good cheese build against high health targets, and you also upgrade to Liandry's. Your Liandry's burn gets amplified by Haunting Geiz. Your Conqueror on-hit auto attacks are also getting amplified by all these Haunting Geizes. And each of these Haunting Geizes upgrades into good items for Udyr. This is a Magic Shred item, and this is a Sustain item. All 3 of these are considered very, very good items for AP Bruisers. I have no idea why Udyr is able to build triple, quadra Haunting Geiz, but you can literally do this in ranked games. In Grandmaster lobbies, I've done it, and others have done it as well, and you will literally win the game against the right type of team comps. Speaking of OP item stacks, Winged Moonplate stack, and these upgrade into a lot of good items. Hullbreaker's pretty good on Udyr. It's just a high health, anti-shred, item. This is a Force of Nature, which is a really good movement speed magic resist item. Deadman's Plate is really good as well. But these stack, and Udyr desperately needs movement speed, because if you're slow, you can't catch anybody, and vice versa. This is really, really important on Udyr, and if you ever just want to plug in a bunch of health and movement speed, don't be afraid to put these in your inventory and then just sell them later in the game, because truly they're one of the best components in the game for Udyr. Dragons are freaking overpowered on Udyr. We mentioned it earlier, but for some reason Udyr can do dragons in under 20 seconds. Chemtech Dragon is a dragon that literally gives you tenacity, shield strength, and healing power. Do you see how that's broken? Cloud Speed gives you slow resistance on a champion that is very vulnerable to getting slowed. The Ocean Dragon gives you constantly healing for a champion that is constantly getting poked because you don't have a gap closer. Every dragon on Udyr is insanely broken, and the more you get, the more this champion comes online. Leveling up makes Awakenings stronger, so literally just by getting to a higher level, your Awakenings will literally do more base damage on the base amount of max health bolts on your Lightning Q. Your R Storm will do more base damage. Your W shield gets bigger. The only stance for some reason that doesn't really improve with experience or level is your E. I don't know why this doesn't also like increase up to 2 seconds immunity at level 18 or something, but for some reason your E is the only stance that does not get better with level in terms of Awakening. Finally, why in the heck is Udyr so damn slow in 2025? Anybody that didn't play old Udyr, oh my lord, this champion is just slower than he used to be. I literally feel like Paul BLART without his freaking moped, dude.